So let's get started. So glad you could join us for our topic, how to research historical background for Bible study. Here's the personal book we'll be using, and this is included in the purchase of the webinar. VIP members get this automatically. So right now we're in the introduction. We're going to talk about why this topic is important. We're going to look at tools and techniques for historical research, looking at the tool sets. We're going to take a little time on some books and resources because this particular topic really matters on what books you have in your library. And then we're going to talk about some study and search strategies, how to organize, what you need to study, and then some advice for teaching and preaching should you find yourself in a situation where you're doing some historical background. All right, so let's get started, and let me just start off first why this is important. The historical background of books helps you understand the context in which they were written. And think about it, we're 2,000 years removed from the authors and the events of the New Testament, even more if we go further into the Old Testament. So background studies are an absolute essential step for the correct interpretation. And just give you a simple example. Book of Revelation. Depending on how you date the book, either before the fall of Jerusalem or after the fall of Jerusalem, makes all the difference in the interpretation. Some see it as the book was written before the fall, and therefore it was all fulfilled in 70 AD, where others, like myself, take the view that it was written in 90 AD after the fall of Jerusalem, and it is still future, and there's many things in there unfulfilled. Obviously, the first couple chapters are being written to real churches, and then you begin chapter 4 through the rest of the book, where it's now looking into things that have yet to be fulfilled. And one thing I love about many of the books in the Bible is they have these built-in outlines. And I think it's, here we go. Revelation 1:19. Therefore, write the things which you've seen. So that's verses 1 through 18. And the things which are, that's going to be chapters 2 and 3. And the things which will take place after these things. And that's chapter 4 and so forth. It's a wonderful organization to the book of Revelation. I'll give you one more that's a fun one, and that would be in the book of Acts. And that should be somewhere in the first chapter. Let me just go into Jerusalem because that's where the book is at. And I wasn't planning on sharing this, so now I'm running to find it. So give me 1 second here. And I think we'll get it. And there we go. Okay, 1:8. I was a little bit off. I kept thinking 9. So here's Jesus speaking before he departs. And he says, it is not for you to know the times or epochs which the Father has fixed by his own authority, which, by the way, this happened before his crucifixion. And he said that he didn't know. Not even the Son of Man, but he doesn't include that exclusion because now he's resurrected and the limitations of the incarnation have been removed. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you. That's going to be Acts chapter 2. And then you shall be my witnesses, both in Jerusalem, that's the first part of Acts, in all Judea and Samaria, and even to the remotest part of the earth, which is where the book of Acts ends. And so this too is the outline of the book of Acts. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so these are the little things that come up that help us to understand the background of the book. Now let's talk about the tools and techniques for historical research. Let's talk about the tool set. These are the tools you're going to need to effectively do historical background research. So let's just hit upon the first one. So the fact book is right here. It's the book with a check mark. And when you click it, obviously it opens up, and this is the newer version. Now, you need to be aware that I'm on the early release, not any beta, but the kind of the pre-release. So they've done some updates to the fact book. So if it looks different than yours, that's why. Okay, I was a Faith Life Connect member and paid for this $10 early invite look at the software. So there's more changes to come, no doubt. So pretty straightforward. Like any fact book, you're going to type something in. Now, I have Sabbath, but just as a reminder, whenever you type anything in, pause for a minute. Don't just press enter, because Logos gives you these additional choices, and some of these may actually give you more insights into the very topic you're studying. So in this case, it's Sabbath, and we're going to go with that. Now you have the information. We have the media, key passages, biblical senses, and so forth. But one particular area that's very important, particularly for, we'll do it on books, is another section that's not appearing here, and I want to demonstrate this. So when you type in a word, these results will be different than if you type in, let's say, a book of the Bible. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put in Acts. We'll wait for the drop-down menu. And you can see that there's this kind of Acts, and then there's the book of Acts. That's the one. Let's click on the book of Acts. And when you do that, you're going to see that some things change in the fact book, all right? And we have, of course, the people, places, reported speech, and so forth. But this is the one I want you to see, Bible Book Guide. And if you're going to do background, this is one of the quickest and easiest ways to do it. Now, I'm going to click on Content. This is going to talk about an overview of the book, an outline, the contents, etc. So big picture. That doesn't really delve into the background. Now we'll click in Origin. Now we have authorship, date, and purpose. Those are very relevant to doing background studies. And then the next section is literally called Background. And now we have historical context, who are the recipients, where is the location of the book, etc. And so each one of these, geography, key figures, all of these are really, really helpful in doing that background. Now, you can get into the canon, why we believe this book is part of the Bible, what is unique, how does this book contribute to the rest of the Bible. That's where canon's going to get in here. I usually don't spend too much time because we make the assumption that these books are biblical, but sometimes that can be helpful. Then we're into meaning. This can be useful for themes, emphasis, interpretation, the message, theology, significance, spiritual content. And then the last section is additional information, which is typically bibliographies. These are other books that you might want to use to study this particular book. So the Bible Book Guide is available. Look for the Book of Acts. I'm going to click on the commandment-looking icon there. And you can see that this is different, all right? So key article and so forth. So you really want to, let's do another one to just get another example. So we type in Ephesians, and again, you're looking for here that red ribbon, Ephesians, Epistle to Ephesians. And there you go. And now we can scroll down, and there's our Bible Book Guide. And very useful. All right, so if you got any questions, feel free to make your comments there, but I love it. I'd be curious, has anyone ever used this section from the fact book, this dig deeper into the Bible Book Guide? I'd be really curious. Or let us know if this is the first time you've seen it. Just type in first time and we're good to go. All right. And good to see some answers in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and close it down. And while you're answering, let me get ready to the next tool. Many of you have seen the improvements that Logos has made. So we're going to go to Tools on the main menu. That's that grid of 9 squares. And great to know, David. First time. I'm glad you got to see this. Now I'm going to Tools, and I'm going to click on Advanced Timeline. Now notice Logos fills up the screen. This is a floating window, and this is a massive amount of information. So a quick overview of the interface. At the top left, we have the hamburger menu. And so that opens and closes this left side. And see how it's a filter. So what that means is if something's checked, you're going to see the information at the right. If it's unchecked, you won't. But if you uncheck everything, which you can do by right-clicking on the dot here at the very top or left-clicking, that will get you all or nothing. Now, by unchecking everything, then you will get truly everything at the right. But as soon as you check one of the box, you're now going to kind of narrow that down. All right, so that's a filter. You can also search for stuff as well. So we could type in, let's say, John, and now we can search all the things related to John. So the New Testament book of John and John the Baptist. And by checking both of those, we've narrowed down the information to just 2 pieces of data, the fall of AD 26 and AD 29, okay? And that's not fall in the sense of destruction, fall in the sense of time of year. All right, so when you uncheck all these, you get more information. Very, very cool. And if we click the X to get rid of the find in John, then we can get access to everything else in there. Notice the colors, all right? So that will tell you. So if we go to archaeology, we can look at artifacts, and you can see those blue dots. So these are archaeology artifact, in this case, related concepts or related facts. All right, so very, very powerful tool. So if you're looking for something specific, I recommend just go right to the find box and look for it. So I'm going to type in, for example, Jerusalem. All right, or better yet, let's do Jerusalem. And we've got that in here. And now we run the search. You can see it right here that we're looking for it, 164 events. And now everything in the timeline is there. Now, while you're looking at this, it's very important to notice this little guy down here, okay? This is kind of your view. And everything between those two dots in the line is what you're viewing. Notice that there's a few more pinpoints or dots to the left. So if we expanded by clicking a dot and expand it to the left, we've increased the view. We're going further back in time, and now we can see these elements, okay? We may have to scroll a little bit up and down to find those elements. And here we go. We've got something right here and so forth. So be aware that you have to first select the period of time. That's what this little grid does down here. And then you go up and down to look at all the information. Now also at the right is the view. And here we can group by subject and type, Bible and church eras, Western history. This will just change the view a little bit and so forth. As you can see, there is a lot of information. So my advice is always search what you're looking for, play with the filter to narrow down what you do and do not want to see, and then go from there. You can put in dates in here if you need to. So we could put in 60 AD, but that's not where you want to do it. All right. The way you do dates is up here. So you put in the top left here, put 60 AD, and then Logos will change the whole timeline to view the date that you put in. So this is how you hunt it down, and then there you go. You can press, I don't know if this will work. Yeah, see, if you type in AD 62, you're not going to get anything. But if you put in, again, 60 AD, we go there, we can get the date. Now, if we put in, let's say, Paul's trial, okay, the text that is associated with the date, that is fully searchable. So keep that in mind. Use the date to get you kind of in that range, and then use this find box to search the text. One other point that's really good to know is if you click on any of these items, if there is any links to find out where this data came from, if you click the text, you'll see a blue text, the name of a book, and that's where the information came from. By the way, if you click the info button here at the top right, that little I inside the circle, you can see the links there. So if we scroll up and let's say click on Paul's trial and voyage, we can see that there's actually 5 links. And if we click his trial in Rome, we can see there's 3 links. So sometimes it's nice to have this at the left or at the right, and then you click at the left, you look at the right, and then you can click on these books, and Logos will take you right to that location where this information can be confirmed. So I love that feature in the timeline. Lastly, you can click the Fit button, which allows you to show all matching events, and you can zoom in and zoom out to see it better or to see more information. So take advantage of that. Unfortunately, Logos does not let you print this out, so if you want to capture this information, you'll have to do a screen capture. All right, so if you have any questions on the timeline, now's the time to post those questions. And let's see if we've got anything on there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click X on the timeline. And let's continue the next one. Now, maps, atlases, and charts. There's a lot of information here. So let's go to Tools, and obviously we can type in Atlas, and that brings us to the Atlas tool. And we'll go ahead and open up that. Again, that'll open up in a floating window, and you can do full screen. Now, this isn't the only map information, but it's one of the main ones in Logos. So we can type in a city, let's say Jerusalem. There it is in our drop-down menu. We'll click on it, and then Logos will take us right there. Notice that we don't see the word Jerusalem. We may have to zoom out sometimes for it to appear. This is one of the limitations of Logos, is that you don't always see the names of the places. All right, but we're pretty much in the ballpark. All right. Now, you'll see below anything related to Jerusalem. So this helps you walk you through the time period. So was Jerusalem mentioned in the pre-patriarchal, Job and his friends? Well, if we click on it, we can go there. Now there's Jerusalem. Now it's being mentioned. And we get a kind of a map there. So sometimes there's information, sometimes there's not. But these are places where here we have Abraham and Sarai go to Egypt and so forth. And so we can see them maybe passing near Jerusalem, or they were near. And so we can walk through these. There's Jerusalem right there. So clearly they went by Jerusalem, most likely. And so this is nice because it's organizing it by time. So this is a great way to trace the events and the people for a particular city. Wonderful. And then, of course, you can click on the links and see what it is. Don't forget there's a little menu up here, kind of a legend to tell you what each of these symbols mean. And you can click and zoom over here, which is really nice at the top right. And you can also change the bearing of north and south. In this case, where north is going up. All right. And then down at the right, you've got a legend to let you understand distance and so forth. So very nice. And then you can change the terrain. We can make it flat so that we're not bothered by all these things. So there you go. Let's zoom in a little bit on this area. All right. So here we are. That's the flat view. And then here's the terrain view. And so you can see a little more different emphasis there in the visualization. So I love the map and atlas. They have a lot of different things in here. So for example, if we type in exiles from Jerusalem, okay, we've got this Babylonian captivity, biblical world, Jeremiah's letter to Babylon, etc. And notice the extra links there. Here we go. Here's the biblical world, Babylonian captivity. You can see there, and so forth. So sometimes it takes a minute for it to refresh, but here you go. Here's Babylon. Here's Jeremiah writing. So this helps you understand how far that letter had to travel in order to get out to David. I'm not David, but Daniel. Because if you recall, Daniel was reading Jeremiah's prophecy. Pretty cool. So wonderful things like that. And if you click the three dots, you can copy and send this to PowerPoint and even open up to Google Maps so you can see this terrain with a modern day map. I love that little feature, so take advantage of that. Demonstrate the way you can determine distance between points. Great, Jarrell. So one of the hidden features that you'd never know unless someone asked or told you is you can measure distances. So let's bring the map over here, and let's pretend that we could fly as the crow. So I'm going to hold down the control button on the keyboard, left click with my mouse, holding down the left mouse button. So you're holding down the control button, you're holding down the left mouse button, and now you're dragging this mouse, and it's supposed to measure. There we go. There it is. Now we can't see the distance, which is a little annoying. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. I have a scroll wheel. There we go. So you may have to zoom out a little bit, but you can see that that is, as the crow flies, 536 miles. Now, if we were to measure this the other way, and again, a little delay here, so we got 196 miles, roughly 100 miles there. Then we could click and drag it to here. All right, that's 200 miles. And then we click here. All right, so we're 300 plus another 200. It's 500 miles. And then we go down to the end, and another 200 miles. So roughly 700 miles, again, give or take. And so I love that feature, and thanks, Jarrell, for that reminder of how we can measure things very quickly. And definitely take advantage of that because it can help understand important events in the Bible, measuring distance. So, for example, when Jesus met the believers on the road to Emmaus, it actually tells you some distance. And if you average how long it takes someone to walk, you can calculate roughly the time of the conversation. Very, very cool. So wonderful little tip there. Thanks, Jarrell, for that. All right. Now, that's not the only place. Obviously, if you